You're listening to the Packernet Podcast Network.
When it comes to towing, seeing is believing. That's why Chevy Truck's advanced camera technology offers up to 8 available cameras for 14 unique views, so you can focus on the view that really matters. Chevrolet, together let's drive. Learn more about Chevy Trucks at Chevy.com. Safety or driver assistance features are no substitute for the driver's responsibility to operate the vehicle in a safe manner. Read the vehicle owner's manual for important feature limitations and information.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. You can email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us 865-658-5824. Flying solo this morning as everyone recovers from festivities, I believe is what's going on. Obviously, Tim's out of the loop right now. He's off the grid at an undisclosed location. We've got Emilio was actually up here in town for Mandy's surprise birthday party last night. Jacob is MIA. However, he's been celebrating his birthday. So probably flying solo today. I'll just leave it at that. But, we've been talking about what going to do a Saturday night show. And some people are like, why aren't we doing a Saturday night show? I just said I got dinner plans. But the reality was we had a huge surprise birthday parties planned for my wife. So Emilio making the trip up for that was a lot of fun. But, so we're getting settled back in. Trying to get woke up this morning. It was a good little shindig last night, a lot of fun. But I hope everybody's having an awesome Sunday morning here as we get ready for game week, man. It's wild. We're 5 days away, I guess. The Packers have already been preparing for the Eagles, probably been preparing for the Eagles all offseason, to be honest with you. Getting ready for that week 1 matchup and trying to figure out what they may or may not do with their new coaching staff additions. So with that being said, though, let's go ahead and get the party started right. Got a couple of topics to hit into. You guys know we try to gear this show in the dead time. We try to gear it around what's the team really focusing on right now. And more specifically, the front offices, the coaches. And what we mean by that is, some people think, okay, Gutey's job's pretty much done. I heard someone say on a podcast the other day, the roster's put together now. And now the GM just sits back and let's see what happens with the team you put together. That's not the case at all. It amazes me how many people don't understand. How many people with a microphone in front of them don't understand exactly how the business operates? Gutey's 24/7, 365 days a year. Like the dude is traveling around and trying to gather information on up-and-coming prospects going into the 2025 NFL draft. He's also trying to make decisions and evaluations in real time on the players that are on the roster set to be free agents this coming off season. So there's a lot of things he's working on right now behind the scenes. It's not like he's just, okay, my job's done. Let me kick back and relax now. Not the case at all. Let's see. We got 2-0 for this in the chat. Morning, Clayton. Happy Packers game week. Yes, sir. Good to see you in here, bud. Ron Sample in the house. Good morning, buddy. Josh Vallanningham. Morning, everybody. Morning to you, Josh. And then 2-0 for this says Goot's only day off is Ed Policy Day. You got that right, buddy. You got that right. So we're going to kind of dive into that stuff. First things first, though, Packers tweeted this out. I thought it was cool. I got to keep it muted because there's some music that'll probably trigger a copyright. But the Packers tweeted out just a neat little video of them taking their team photo. Pretty cool stuff to see everybody and watching everybody interact, man. It looks like the vibe on the team is really good right now. And Lambeau Field, absolutely gorgeous in the background, right? It seems like these guys are really gelling. I know Luke Musgrave got a good pop there on Twitter. I don't know if they're making fun of the haircut or what, but there's Evan Williams in the video. Seems like he's fitting in really well. Pretty cool stuff from the Packers. So these are some of the shots they took. Obviously, the tight end room from left to right. You got Ben Sims. You got Tucker Kraft. You got Messiah Swinson. You can kind of see how much bigger Messiah is there than Musgrave and Kraft. He's a hoss. And then you got Musgrave on the right, of course. So with the tight ends coaches. And some of these other shots, just random, candid shots. Carrington Valentine, I don't know if you guys noticed, but every time you see Carrington Valentine, he's always in Jair's hip pocket. And I love that. I think that's absolutely awesome. It seems like he's someone who looks up to Jai and trying to pick his brain constantly. Obviously, you see Keyshawn there with the group. Let's see what else we got here. Well, actually, that's just a candid shot here. And then here's a couple of the units shots here. So you've got the DBs on the upper half of the photo. You see Xavier McKinney showing a little attitude there. Love to see it. Just a good-looking bunch, man. Jair got that cap on. You see Evan Williams, Javon Bullard. The thing I love about Javon Bullard always looks pissed off too. I don't know. I just dig that. I think he's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And then at the bottom, of course, you've got the edge or defensive line room, I guess you could say. I guess that's the entire defensive line room. So big TJ Slayton back there looking like the grave digger, right? Got more chins than a Chinese phone book, and that's a good thing. You've got Rashawn Gary just always looking pissed off. It's cool to see everybody's personality kind of shine through. Jonathan Ford is a massive human being too. My goodness, man. But anyway, just thought it was cool that the Packers took those team shots, all that good stuff. So Ron Sanville says, do you have that picture of Hopper? He looks huge. I didn't see it on their tweet. May have overlooked it, Ron, and I'm trying not to spend too much time on this stuff because on the podcast, people are going to click and can't see the pictures, but let's get to the point here. So we try to take that in. At least I try to take that into consideration every time we're doing a show. Just a little bit of news around the edge here. 2-0 for this says, I'm glad to hear Pearsall is doing all right. Yeah, man, that was wild. I woke up to that news this morning, and for those of you who don't know, and listen, take what I say here with a grain of salt because I haven't dug too deep into what exactly happened. But it sounds like Ricky Pearsall got shot in the chest last night in downtown San Francisco, I believe. And I think it was Adam Schefter that tweeted out it was a 17-year-old that allegedly shot him. And it sounded like all signs were pointing towards allegedly it being an attempted robbery. And yeah, I mean, listen, we love our Packers, we root for our team and everything, but it goes without saying, you never want to see anything happen to any other human being. I don't care what colors they're wearing, what team they're on, but it's just it sucks, man. It really sucks. And what you find, I ain't gonna get into it. Again, though, thoughts and prayers go out to Ricky Pearsall. That dude is I liked him coming out of the draft. I can't remember exactly where I had him on my board. Let's see if I can find it real quick. But he did. I remember thinking I was a little higher on him than others. Yeah, Ricky Pearsall I had as the 7th best wide receiver, right ahead of Troy Franklin in last year's draft. So it's just it's a damn shame, man, that you can't go out and not have to worry about those type of things. But the cool thing that came out of it, if there is something cool to possibly come out of it, people on Twitter were actually tweeting out a picture of him walking to the ambulance with a towel. They had a towel on his chest. So my man was like, I don't need that stretcher. He got shot in the chest, and he's walking to the ambulance like, that's guy you want on your football team there, man. Just tougher than nails for sure. But anyway, let's get into some. Thanks for bringing that up though, because it is worth mentioning. Like I said, thoughts and prayers go out to Ricky Pearsall and obviously his family as they deal with that. Hopefully he won't miss any time. I'm not one of those Packer fans like, okay, well the good thing is he'll miss. No, dude, come on. These are human beings. There's more to life than just football and winning football games. But as a fan, all right. So a couple things that came down the pike. I thought this was cool, and I'm gonna go ahead and kill my camera here. We may activate it again here. There's no reason to have it on. Seeing that, we're recording a podcast and you guys don't want to stare at my ugly mug anyway, over here trying to get my 4th cup of coffee. Adam Schefter tweeted this out. Some post cut down day stats via the 33rd team. All right. The youngest full roster in the NFL as it sits right now, as of 11:49 a.m. August 31st. Okay. Youngest full roster are the Green Bay Packers at 25.11 years old. The second youngest are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 25.59. Then the Eagles at 25.62. Then the Giants at 25.70. And the Chiefs at 25.73. So as it sits today on August 31st / September 1st, I don't think anything's changed dramatically. The Packers are once again the youngest football team in the National Football League. And that, to me, that's very exciting, man. Very exciting. The fact that you're contending constantly, right? You're contending for a playoff spot, and many people now have labeled the Packers as Super Bowl contenders. It's pretty wild that you're the youngest team in the league and you're still one of the Super Bowl favorites. That's just, I mean, what else can you say about a general manager, especially when it comes to building a roster that's going to compete? And it's easy to look back on last year. I think if I was the general manager, I would look up and go, all right, we were one of the youngest teams last year. Let's add a little bit of veteran knowledge in there. And we're okay if we raise that age up a touch, right? Gutey doesn't see it that way. Gutey's like, no, man, let's go find some more dogs on these young contracts. And we talked about this when we first started podcasting. And I remember people giving me a little bit of hate on it in just interaction. I was like, the key to playing the cash over cap game, because at the time we were truly playing cash over cap with Aaron Rodgers on the roster and trying to put some veteran help around him and being able to use voidable years and all those things. The key is you got to hit on these draft picks. And what I mean by that is when you hit on the draft picks, they're much cheaper contracts. And that's how you fill your roster out to allow you to play the cash over cap game and be able to put together a kind of a multi-mixed roster of veterans and young players. Gutey seems now like, hey, look, give them a year or two. If it don't work out, let's move the heck on and let's go find someone else, And that's where I really tip my cap to Brian Gutekunst. There's a lot of general managers that allow their ego to kind of get in their way and refuse to cut players because, hey, that's my draft pick. And now this year he's going to get it together. This year he's going to get together. Now, listen, there's been examples of that. Your Darnell Savages, people like that, where you could tell it wasn't clicking, and we continue to bring them back. But I'm talking about like Amari Rodgers. It's a swing and a miss, right? Swing and a miss. Gutey, cut him. Let's move on. The same thing really with Anders Carlson. Like, it would be real easy to try to feed your ego a little bit. Like, hey, if he puts it together this year, Gutey's a genius for not giving up on him. But Gutey and Coach LaFleur, and I'm sure Rich Bisaccia, they made the decision. You know what? He just hasn't improved. That's what Rich Bisaccia said the other day, was he just hasn't improved enough. He's improved. He just hasn't improved enough. And they see the new kicker that they got from Tennessee, Narvison, they see him as, hey, this dude's going to be significantly better, right? So I don't know. When it comes to building the roster and building a young roster, I used to push back a little bit, like, just in my own mind, I need a little bit of veteran help out here. I tell you, man, last year, maybe it was an anomaly. I hope it wasn't. But last year kind of shows, hey, listen, you get some veterans in key spots, keep building a young roster. As Ted Thompson used to say, it's a young man's game, right? So I think there's a lot of truth to that for sure. Like Nathan said here in the chat, good to see you, buddy. He says by a significant margin too. Absolutely. So the oldest full rosters in the league is, let's see here. Let's go from top to bottom. The Miami Dolphins at an average of 27.3 years old. Number 2 is the Vikings at 27.1. Man, the 49ers at 26.9. The Commanders at 26.9. And the Falcons at 26.8. Now, if this is the first time you've heard these numbers and you're thinking in your mind, Clayton, that's still a young number. Absolutely, it's still a young number. But when you compare your roster across the entire league and you are the oldest roster, what it says is you got a lot of players in place that are one step closer to being done in their career. Like, this might be the year that they fall off, right? To put yourself in a position to be the oldest rosters in the league, you're probably pushing the envelope a little bit, So the fact that it's the Dolphins, the Vikings, and the Niners, that makes me happy. The Vikings, man, it's a crap show over there right now. Right now, obviously, you can't control the tragedies that's happened kind of off the field, and your quarterback being out for the year, you didn't see that one coming. I don't know if there's anything you could have done to prevent that. So those things are just kind of bad luck. So now you're going into a season with Sam Darnold as your quarterback. And listen, there's some stats that suggest Sam Darnold's a good quarterback, and there's, I feel like, many more credible stats that suggest he's not. That he's not going to be a guy that can get you over that hump, right? So when you got the oldest roster and it's a crappy roster, just not sure what you're doing. Like someone posted, they tweeted something the other day. I wish I'd have grabbed it and quote tweeted it, because I typically try to quote tweet stuff that I could share on here and give people credit for the information. But with the Vikings, it's like they showed their last draft class too, or one of their first draft classes with their new GM. And man, it was bad. It was like a miss on all of them. And I understand there's misses with every general manager across the league. Gutey misses all the time. The hit rate is very low across the league when it comes to the draft. It's not like anyone is just tearing it up at 80 or 90% success, right? And with that comes an argument of, okay, what defines the success? And that always cracks me up. Like, I quote tweeted one of the draft classes. It was Jordan Love's draft class. And the only person left on that roster or from that draft class that's still on a roster is Jordan Love. And what I said in the quote tweet, it wasn't a bash Gutey. It was like, man, this is an ugly draft class, but you hit on the most important one, right? And I think someone responded on Twitter and said, yeah, but John Runyon was a hit. Look how much he got paid in New York. I'm like, what are we even talking about? You're going to try to convince me John Runyon was a hit and the dude, because of bad organization, overpaid him? Like, it was bad last year. Sean Ryan beat him out for the job pretty much. And Sean Ryan, listen, I mean, I know you guys don't need to hear me say this, don't need me to say this, but it's not like Sean Ryan's all pro material. Have we lowered the bar that much because you don't because we refuse to acknowledge that Gutey does miss on some stuff, man? Every general manager misses. Why? Those type of people always ask them, I'm like, why? When have you ever said anything negative about Brian Gutekunst? Show me the tweet. And I'm talking 95% of the time, there's not a single tweet, there's not a single comment, a single opinion where it's like, man, I don't know what Gutey was thinking here. I'm sorry, when people are like that, I just kind of tune them out because, you know, you're kind of in denial. You know, you've convinced yourself this dude is absolutely perfect and does nothing wrong. Every general manager makes mistakes. So, but anyway, the youngest starter age, you know, when you talk about the overall roster and how young they are, okay, that's the bottom half of the roster that's probably kind of, you know, making that number a little younger than it needs to be. What are the starters' age? And again, there might be a little bit of blurred lines here on who should actually be the starter. Are they doing it out of a base defense set? Are they doing it out of all your nickel personnel, what have you? But the information here from the 33rd team with their starter age, the Packers are still the youngest team in the league with the youngest starters' age. So the starters alone on the Packers, what I assume they project is the top 22, which is probably in an 11 personnel, 3 wide receiver set and their nickel defense, which they're going to be in the majority of the time. The Packers starter age is 25.4, best in the league. Second is the New York Giants at 25.5. Third is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 25.7. The Chiefs are fourth at 25.7. That's a wild number to me. They get the fifth youngest roster overall, and they get the fifth youngest starter age. So you see Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelce, those guys they're continuing to bring in young talent and just somehow, some way make it work. It's pretty wild to think about. Good morning, Greg. Good to see you, buddy. Cheesehead Murph. Good morning, bub. Yeah. All right. And so that kind of catches me off guard a little bit with the starter age as far as the Chiefs. And when I seen the Chiefs, I'm going, okay, well, they had to rebuild the bottom half of that roster. Then when I seen the starters, I was like, holy cow, man, they actually climbed the spot. So interesting to see how these teams do. I know not many people are picking the New York Giants to do much this year. Same thing, well, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think they've got a decent shot. It seems like Baker's kind of found a home there, Baker Mayfield. But the Packers' youngest starter age, pretty wild. Here's the oldest starter age, okay? The Dolphins, 27.9 years old. The Browns, 27.4. The Vikings, 27.5. The Saints, 27.5. And the Panthers, 27.3. That Panthers age is – or that Panthers age numbers. Whew, they were a bad team last year. And one of the oldest as far as starters go. Dolphins leading the way there, obviously. Vikings in third place. But what you do notice is when it comes to the oldest starter age, there was one that changed there. The Niners are third at 26.9 in just overall roster, right, and age. They're the third oldest team. But they don't show up in the top 5 in starters. So they got a little bit younger in the starter category there. So, again, just something to kind of keep an eye on as far as how rosters are built, right, and what the common theme is around the league. These are the type of things we want to dive into and talk about because it's the NFL. It's all about trends. And if you can, it's so hard to do. And I've tried for so long, and I'm telling you, I'm horrible at it. I'm always so behind when new trends start. It's usually when the trends are about to head out of the league and they're about to fade out. That's when I catch on because I'm just a moron. But right now the trend is, it seems like the teams that are keeping a fairly young roster are doing pretty well. Again, overall roster. Packers, Bucks, Eagles, Giants, Chiefs. Out of those 5, I would say one of those teams is not a good team in the Giants. And who knows, maybe they turn it around this year. I doubt it because it seems like Daniel Jones just isn't the answer at quarterback. And we know that's the most important aspect of building a roster for sure. All right, let's do this now. Let's kind of shift gears. Since actually we'll kind of stay somewhat on topic. Let's talk about what Gutey's doing right now. And again, I said this at the top of the show that when it comes to general managers this time of year, they don't have any time off. They're continuing to just absolutely crank out work and travel all over the country, especially now that college football has kicked up, right? It's now is one of their busiest parts of their work season. So yesterday, this is what we had as far as information. Jordan Reed at Jordan_Reed tweeted this out, said 24 NFL teams in attendance at the Clemson, Georgia game. All right. Green Bay was one of those 24 teams, and they went into more detail and said general managers on hand in person watching the game. You had Bean from the Buffalo Bills. You got Poles from Chicago. You got Brian Gutekunst from Green Bay. And then you got, Sheen, I think is how you say it, from the New York Giants. So Brian Gutekunst was in attendance for the Clemson, Georgia game. Now, listen, I don't want to overreact here and pretend like, hey, guys, he's got his eye on somebody. Those are big-name programs. I want to say Clemson was number 14 and Georgia was number 1 yesterday when that thing kicked off. So what I like to do is, okay, let's take a look at that, and let's say, okay, what prospects might they be looking at? Now, listen, there's no way we can predict them all, right? Because Brian Gutekunst is looking to build out the bottom half of the roster as well. So let's see who is on those rosters. And again, this is Clemson and Georgia. We're going to go to the consensus big board as it sits right now. Again, just like PFF, just like anything else we use, the consensus big board is not the secret sauce, not the answer to all of your questions around the draft. It's just another tool we can use that kind of gauges the entire draft community and how they're seeing everything sort of shake out, right, or set up for the season. So again, we're looking for Georgia and Clemson players right off the bat. Carson Beck in the number 6 spot. I think it's safe to say the Packers don't think they'll have a shot at Carson Beck and probably wouldn't be interested in drafting a quarterback that high, seeing that they just gave Jordan Love $220 million. Now, if he falls to them, they win the Super Bowl, they're sitting in the 32 spot, somehow, some way, the best quarterback in the draft. Never going to happen. But somehow, some way, the best quarterback in the draft falls all the way to you at 32. Yeah, I think they would probably take him. But don't think he's got his eye on Carson Beck right now. So we're looking for Clemson, Georgia. Here's another Georgia guy. Mikael Williams, defensive lineman out of Georgia. That grabs my attention, and I'm going to explain why here in a second, okay? So your next player, safety, Malachi Starks. Now, we know that Brian Gutekunst loves Georgia players, right? He loves that program. He loves what Kirby Smart's already created. And, just like college football, when you're recruiting, there's a thing called pipeline where you build relationships and you build this continuity throughout a certain part of the country that you're continuing to recruit for your college program. And you get to know people, you get to know coaching staffs and high school coaching staffs, especially in the Southeast, they don't turn over very often. So you've got some of these guys that are legends in high school coaching throughout the southeastern part of the United States, all over the country. But me being in the Southeast, you kind of see it firsthand. You hear more times than not, this coach has been coaching at this high school for 23 years. And he's a legend, right? So you build those relationships, you build those pipelines. And what happens is those high school programs, they welcome you in to go and recruit their players. And those coaches will open up and tell you everything about that player and help you kind of complete the profile that you're building around that high school player. I say that because with the NFL level and scouting college players, it works the same way. You hear stories all the time. The one that sticks out to me is Nick Saban. And Nick Saban, how he will, he said, it's amazing to me how many teams did not ask me for information on that player. If they'd asked, I would have told them, right? I'm not reaching out to them. He said, but there are programs in the NFL, Bill Belichick was one, where he would ask Saban, hey, what do you think of this guy, and this guy on your roster? What do you think about this guy that you played against the last 2-3 years, right? And you build a relationship, you build rapport, you go out to dinner, you get to know these coaching staffs, and they're going to give you a little more information, man. they're going to share that info. It's obvious that Brian Gutekunst has done that at Georgia. Now, I don't know how close he is to Kirby Smart, but, man, he's drafted a lot of Georgia players, right? I mean, you think of Devontae White, you think of Quay Walker, now you got Javon Bullard. There's definitely a pipeline that's been somewhat created through that Georgia program. So I think that's going to continue for Gutey as Kirby Smart continues to build just championship level defenses. I don't even know if they won yesterday. I'm assuming they beat Clemson. Let me check real quick. Again, this isn't a college football pod, but we need to talk about this stuff, especially at this point in the season when you get news that Gutey was visiting somewhere. So let's go here. Georgia football. Let's see who won. Oh, yeah, Georgia, the number 1 team in the country versus the number 14 team in the country. Georgia boat raced Clemson 34-3. Think about that. Now, it was at Georgia. I believe it was between – no, it was a neutral site. I remember seeing it at a neutral site. This particular app doesn't say where they played, but I'm pretty sure it was a neutral site game. Let's see here. Neutral site. I got to know, man. This is what happens when I fly solo. You get a lot of dead time like this because I've got to know these things. Neutral site openers. Someone will write a way too lengthy article. Neutral site opener at Aflac kickoff game at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. So they played where the Falcons played yesterday. So it was a neutral site game. That makes it an even more impressive win for Georgia because if it was played between the hedges, you go, hey, that's college football, man. Home field cooking, right? Not that anybody's cheating for the home team, but, man, they get rowdy. It's hard to go on the road and win ball games, which is really, really cool about my Notre Dame Fighting Irish going and winning that game yesterday. We'll talk about it in a second. I think you'll be surprised why we're going to talk about it too. So anyway, Malachi Starks with Georgia. Still looking for the first Clemson player. Haven't seen them yet. So we're looking Georgia, Clemson, unless I've overlooked them here. Here we go. We got our first Clemson player, linebacker Barrett Carter from Clemson. Okay. Could be looking at some backers down there. That's possible. We got to find you've got Edgerrin Cooper, you got Quay Walker. Obviously, you want to find that third linebacker if for some reason Isaiah McDuffie or Eric Wilson isn't back, if they hit free agency and get poached away. That's definitely possible. I'm not going to go through the entire list. I just want to take a quick glance again. Clemson, Georgia is what we're looking for. Georgia tight end Oscar Delp. All right, he peaked at 36. He's sitting at 48 right now. That's one of the big names there. Georgia interior offensive lineman Tate Ratledge. You think about a player like that, and I don't know how versatile he is, and I know the Packers like to draft college tackles to play pro guard. That's kind of their MO or has been in the past. But if you go out and draft someone like a Tate Ratledge and he's a solid right guard, now you may look at kicking Jordan Morgan around in year 2 to a tackle position, right, if you need to. But that's a player they may have their eye on. Linebacker Jalen Walker. God, man, Georgia, they are loaded. Here's another Clemson player, offensive tackle Blake Miller. These are just some names. Take a quick glance at them, all right? We won't go any further there. Now, let's move on to some other news that broke. And this came in from Jim Nagy, who obviously handles the Senior Bowl. It says, sources tell at Senior Bowl that 5 NFL general managers will be in attendance for tonight's Texas A&M versus Notre Dame game. Those teams are the Bears, the Bills, the Giants, the Packers, and the Texans. Once again, 5 general managers. So think about this. Early in the day, Gutey was at that neutral site. If these reports are accurate, okay, there's a chance that could have been mixed up, but it sounds like both reports were the general managers were in-house. Then that would have meant that Gutey was in Atlanta, Georgia, watching Clemson, Georgia play, and then he flew out to Kyle Field, right, to watch Notre Dame play Texas A&M on the road, which, by the way, Notre Dame got a huge road victory there week 1. That's going to help their playoff chances in college football playoff this year. So I say that because if Gutey was there at Texas A&M and Notre Dame, now let's just take a quick glance. Let's walk back through it one more time here. We're looking for Texas A&M and Notre Dame. First player on the list, Notre Dame, Benjamin Morrison. Some believe he's the best cornerback in the draft. Would the Packers be interested in the corner? I think so. And I'll tell you why. Eric Stokes is set to be a free agent. Corey Ballantyne's set to be a free agent, if I remember correctly. Just want to glance here. Those are unrestricted free agents as well. If you think other teams aren't looking at the Packers roster to poach, man, look at how many of those practice squad guys got signed, right? It's pretty wild to think about. So, yeah, first player, Benjamin Morrison. I'm hoping the Packers have a good enough season that they will have no shot at drafting him. All right, so again, we're looking Notre Dame and we're looking for Texas A&M. Nick Scorton, edge defender out of Texas A&M. He's sitting in the 20 spot. He had peaked at number 7. So might have your eyes on him just a touch. Let's see here. Texas A&M quarterback Connor Weigman. I hope I'm saying that right. Maybe Weigman. I think it's Weigman. Quarterback for Texas A&M. He's sitting in the 31 spot. He had peaked all the way at 15 at one point. And again, I think these numbers haven't been updated since the ball game, so this will shuffle around, and we'll look at it from time to time throughout the year. All right, Texas A&M and Notre Dame. A little bit of a drop-off here now, looks like, unless I'm overlooking. I apologize if I missed one. But Texas A&M, Notre Dame. All right, here we go. A couple of them grouped together. Shamar Turner, defensive lineman from Texas A&M. He's in the 70 spot. He peaked at 53. And then you got Howard Cross III, defensive lineman from Notre Dame, sitting in the 71 spot. He peaked at 20. Howard Cross is a hoss. And I don't know why he fell all the way to 71 because he was, much higher just a few weeks ago. We'll see if we can find out why as we move forward throughout the season. So one more, Mitchell Evans, tight end from Notre Dame. They've become kind of tight end with your Michael Mayers and other players that have had pretty good careers in the NFL coming out of Notre Dame. So those are just a few players that kind of grab your attention. The defensive line is what really grabs my attention, and I'll tell you why right now. Let me go ahead and drop this down, and I want to share this other screen real quick with you guys. So let's talk about the free agents for the Packers coming up. And people are going, Clayton, why are we talking about this? It's football season. This is important. These are the things that we want to talk about because Brian Gutekunst is keyed in on this stuff. He's looking at his free agents. I think we would all agree he's already signed the players that he slam dunk. We want them back, right? And those players were Kenny Clark, right? Got his contract extension. I'm trying to think of who the other guy was. Got the other player on the Packers that got the contract extension. But here are the remaining players that have not got it. Oh, the other player is Jordan Love, of course. I think that was important. So if these are the players that they said, you know what, we don't like them enough to give them market value at their position, then you let them play the year out and you reevaluate at the end of the year. Maybe you get a stronger comp. Maybe you get a weaker comp. Now's the time to re-sign a player because you're going to get a little hometown discount, in my opinion. Typically, they say it's like 5 to 15% money you could save on signing a player before their contract is up, right? Because when they hit the market, it's going to get inflated, right? There's going to be desperate, badly ran teams that are going to overpay for free agents. It's going to happen, right? So here are the top remaining free agents for the Packers for 2025 based off of AAV, which is average annual value, okay? So if you take the whole contract, divide it by the number of years, typically that's where you come up with the AAV. And to me, that's how you truly determine the value of a player, unless, of course, they were on a rookie contract. In this case, Eric Stokes was, that you say, okay, that's just kind of slotted that way. But like A.J. Dillon is on this list too, that $2.7 million, he was offered a little bit more money, and he took this deal, and it sounded like it wasn't enough money to offset the taxes he would get to play in another state, if I understood the article correctly. So top of the list, 2025 free agents. These are the things that Gutey's looking at when he's going and scouting players. He's looking at his roster and going, okay, Eric Stokes set to be a free agent. Doesn't mean they're not going to re-sign him. He may ball out, look healthy, and Gutey want to re-sign him. That's definitely a possibility. But right now, Eric Stokes at corner, A.J. Dillon at running back, Corey Ballantyne at cornerback. You're already seeing a trend there, right? We may lose 2 corners. Maybe Gutey gears up to take a corner next year. Center Josh Myers. Guys, that's a starting position. Now, is Jacob Monk going to be your future center? Some people believe that. Some people believe that the plan might be to kick Zach Tom to center and have Jordan Morgan kick the right tackle next year. There's been many reports that came, quote unquote, from within the building that the future center is on the roster. Now, to me, it's one of 3 people if that's the case. It's either Elton Jenkins, Zach Tom, or Jacob Monk. That's what I take from that comment. So the Packers may not look to even draft a center. However, if they may have the center on their roster already, but I think unless Josh Myers is willing to take a very, very, very team-friendly deal, he's probably not going to be back next year. All signs kind of point to that, in my opinion. We'll see. I know they like him, and they like him for his pass blocking ability. And you can look across the board, whether you look at PFF or pass blocking statistics or any other analytics you can find. One thing is for sure, the Packers put run blocking on the back burner. They say, we want to key in on pass blocking. This is a passing league. We want to keep our quarterback protected and upright. We'll work it out however we need to work it out in the run blocking game. I'm not saying I agree with it, but there is no denying that's how the Packers look at building their offensive line, in my opinion. Now, it could be that the development process, which doesn't get talked about enough, it could be that the development process from the offensive line coaches aren't keying in on that enough, or maybe they're just not good at that. Coach Butkus, not a shot. It's reality. You can't be great at everything. If you're great at everything, you end up being a head coach, right? So could be that, right? But yeah, it's who do we have on the roster that's going to be the future center? Coach Lynn makes a good point here. He says Sean Ryan looks solid at center also. That wouldn't surprise me, Coach. It wouldn't. If they popped in and said, hey, Sean Ryan's going to be our center, it wouldn't be my top pick. But I see what you're saying. It wasn't like when he came in at center and he played horrible, right? To me, I hate to say it like this and be a jerk, but he didn't look any different than Josh Myers out there, albeit they were playing against backups. So, Ben Holden said, so cornerback, D-tackle, center, O-line, and linebacker. See, Ben's thinking in mind at the same direction I'm thinking, right? When you look at these free agents coming up, you start to go, okay, you're probably going to need to replace that. They may ball out, you give them an extension. We talked about it. But that's how this team stays so young, right? Is Gutey is, when you let someone go, he's turning over the roster with rooks and young undrafted free agents and maybe guys that got kind of raked over the scrap pile, and he comes through, tries to swoop in, and the famous line, I can change him, right? So, again, Eric Stokes, cornerback, A.J. Dillon, running back, Corey Ballantyne, cornerback, Josh Myers, center, Eric Wilson, outside linebacker. See, remember we were talking about linebackers on that list? Possibility, right? If Eric Wilson is your starting 4-3 backer right now, over Edgerrin Cooper, at the way it sits right now, it's Quay Walker, Isaiah McDuffie, and Eric Wilson. You want Edgerrin Cooper to be able to take that spot from Eric Wilson. You want that, and let Eric Wilson really key in on special teams. In the meantime, the injury has set Cooper back a touch. Then that might be the reason that the only reason he hasn't beat out Eric Wilson for that other linebacker spot. So I think they'll want Eric Wilson back. He's 30 years old. If he shows he can play special teams like he did this year, I don't think he's going to carry enough value to allow another team to outbid us for him next year. So I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back. So that one I'm a little bit like, maybe not linebacker. And you got Quay Walker, you got Edgerrin Cooper. You spend a lot of draft capital in rebuilding that linebacker room. The reality, too, is only two of those guys are going to be on the field 75 to 80% of the time because you're going to be in a nickel 4-2-5 rather than a base 4-3. So you don't want to dump more draft capital or more money into a position that's not going to be on the field but 15, 20% of the snaps, right? So you got to take that into consideration. When I build a roster out, when I'm modeling a roster, and that's right, I'm nerdy, I do that. When I hear former general managers like Michael Lombardi and others talk about you got to model this thing out, you got to project it out, I do it all the time. I got a whiteboard. I'm a weirdo, guys. There's no two ways about it. I'll draw it out and go, okay, here's what our nickel 4-2-5 looks like. Here's what our 11 personnel looks like. That's what's going to be on the field the majority of the time. It doesn't mean you neglect depth at tight end because you're going to be playing a lot of 12 too. We played more 12 personnel than anyone in the league last year, according to, I think it was Jordan Rodriguez that said that. So you still key in on that stuff, but the main thing is you're starting 22, right? And then build out depth around it. So next on the list is Andre Dillard at tackle. Obviously, we just signed him, kind of trying to patch together that swing tackle or that backup left tackle spot. Tyler Davis, tight end, is going to be a free agent. Zane Anderson, safety, is going to be a free agent. And TJ Slayton is going to be a free agent. Maybe TJ Slayton's size gets some people's attention. I think you're going to get the best version of TJ Slayton in our base 4-3 this year, though. And the reason being is because he's playing for his career right now, man. He's going to be 27 years old, right? And is he 27? Is that right? Yeah, 20. He's going to be 28, I believe, next year. So he's trying to get one more bite at the apple here. You're going to get a pissed off TJ Slayton this year, right? But again, he's an unrestricted free agent. Now, if you notice in the yellow here, and this is on Spot Track, you got exclusive rights free agents. The best way to look at these guys is if Packers want them back, they can get them back. No problem. Okay, just put it that way. Don't even treat them like free agents. It's more of like a team option. The team gets to make that decision as opposed to the player. When you get the UFAs, the unrestricted free agents, they can be gone. You know, if you want to keep them, you better not let them hit the market. Okay, so Aaron Mosby, Jonathan Ford, Daniel Whelan, and Emmanuel Wilson, they will be back if the Packers want them back, no doubt about it. Right. Going down the list here, Isaiah McDuffie, that's another one. Only 26 years old. I think there's a good chance they let him test the market, and they would probably pay him market value. I think they really like Isaiah McDuffie. I don't think Eric Wilson, because of his age, is going to warrant a larger contract, if that makes sense. I just don't see that happening. But nonetheless, Isaiah McDuffie, I think at 26 years old, I think you want him back. I wouldn't be surprised if they worked out some kind of extension that's just not too over the top, something that they go, hey, here's your comp. I could see that. It's just rare that you get those extensions done in season, right? I don't even know if Gutey's ever done that, to be honest. I don't think he has. I could be wrong, though. So he's an unrestricted free agent, right? Next, you got Kadeem Telford, LJ Davis, and Bo Melton. They're all exclusive rights free agents. So Bo Melton, he ain't going nowhere for another year, in my opinion. You've got his rights. Now, again, there's some draft picks and stuff that's involved in that. If another team wants to come in and get them, we won't dive too far into the weeds there. But another one is Caleb Jones. He is a restricted free agent. With the restricted free agent, I'm pretty sure that's the one that involves a draft pick. So they can, however much money they want to pay Caleb Jones, another team can come in and match that or beat it, and then they comp the value of that contract out to draft pick value, and that team has to forfeit a draft pick for them. So it works out. It's like almost like an arbitrary, design trade, if you will. So. So I just wanted to kind of dive into those because some of those players we were talking about were Gutey's on the road doing some scouting. What positions grab your attention? Again, corner kind of jumps out to me. You're always going to draft offensive linemen. Like I said, if I hadn't heard the center of the future is already on the roster, I would think probably looking at centers, but I bet they like what they got on the roster. Just replace Josh Myers if he's not willing to take a very team-friendly pay cut or contract, I should say. Outside of that, that's pretty much it, I think. Defensive tackle. So Gutey's probably got his eyes on some defensive linemen. Notre Dame has a solid defensive line. I'm sure Texas A&M, I'm sure they're built in the trenches fairly well too. But yeah, I don't know. That's kind of how I see that. So again, I just wanted to take a quick second and look at those free agents, right? And look at who the Packers may or may not be scouting. I think that now is the time to do that because we're about to dive into deep diving. All right, what are the keys to beating the Eagles? What are they good at? What are they bad at? We'll get that queued up for tonight's show, 7 p.m. Central. We're going to look at the PFF preview and show you everything from the line and the line changing, how PFF's analytics look into the line, where's the best bet type thing. Not that we're a gambling show, but I'm telling you, you follow the money, you could typically be one step ahead on which team has the, which team may or may not have the advantage going in. So I put a poll question up. I was going to try to find it. Here we go. All right, so we got a poll question up. I cannot put it on the screen, unfortunately. I can screenshot it. Let me see if I can screenshot this. It may look a little wonky. Let's see if we can get this up. So I put a YouTube poll question up when we went live here, asking fans how they're feeling about this. And we'll wrap up after this. Let's see if I can get it in here. Got a redneck running the show by himself. This is bad. This is going to end up bad. All right, here we go. So here's what I asked. Poll question. Which option best describes your feelings towards Friday's matchup versus Philly? Packers in a close one. Packers win in a close one. Eagles win in a close one. Packers win in a blowout. Eagles win in a blowout. And it was runaway. Packers win in a close one at 69%. Second was Packers win in a blowout at 18%. Third was Eagles win in a close one at 9%. And then the Eagles win in a blowout at 4%. So, Packer fans, listen, we're definitely a positive channel here, but we seem to be feeling pretty good about going into this game. And what's crazy is actually if you go over to BetUS, they've still got the Packers catching 3 points here. So the Eagles are 3-point favorites, and Packer fans feeling pretty good about this game. So we'll see, man. I think it's going to be a close one. If I had to vote, I would probably say if it stays at the neutral site, I'm leaning towards the Packers in a money line situation, but I would take the +3 because I always take the points on a team that I think has a good chance of winning the game. just a nice way to watch a ball game when a team jumps up by 7 points and you're sitting there holding 3, so essentially you got a 10-point lead. But again, that's the number that was on BetUS the last we checked. If you guys want to put a little action on the game, check out BetUS.com. I've got a link in the video description here. They're the official sports book of Packer Fan Total Access Live. Like I said, you click on a link in the video description, it'll send you over to their website. If you use that actual link, okay, if you just go to BetUS, this doesn't happen. But if you use that link that's in the video description, then it lets them know that us over here at Packer Fan Total Access sent them to you, okay? And it just puts us in better standing with them. And they got a cool little interface and all that good stuff, so you might want to check them out. Again, that's where that number came from there. Packers +3. They're 3-point underdogs as it sits right now. Now, I'm going to highlight one comment. We got to get out of here. Magic1 in the chat said, Clayton, did you hear the air quality is so bad they may cancel going to Brazil and play in Philly? I haven't heard that specifically, Magic, but I do know the air quality and all. I'm well aware of everything that's going on in Brazil right now, and there's multiple reasons. It sounds like a lot of people about got canceled earlier in the year for just stating what appears to be facts now. I try to stay out of those conversations because I'm just a dumb redneck from Tennessee. I'm not qualified enough to comment, but the air quality thing and the wildfires and stuff, man, that's a real issue. Like, so maybe it will get moved back to Philly. If it does get moved back to Philly, watch that line really shift. You may see the Packers catching more than 3 points, right? Because that was a big positive. I didn't understand the Packer fans that got upset with them going to Brazil. It was an away game, so we're not missing a game at Lambeau. You're not missing an opportunity to watch the Packers play in Green Bay. And also, man, it helps you with an away game. Like it's a neutral site. Both teams have to deal with the same thing as opposed to going into Philly and having that disadvantage. So if anybody in the chat has an update on that, let me know. I'll just glance real quick. I don't see anything myself, but I was trying to get back to, his comment. No one else said anything. So there you go. So just be aware of that. Everybody keep your ear to the street there. I'm assuming they're still going to play it in Brazil. I think it would be highly unlikely that they would move that game. I think it'd be more likely they would cancel it or postpone it to a later date, wouldn't you? I mean, people spend a lot of money ready to travel down there and watch the game. And I know folks there in town, I can only imagine local businesses and stuff that have kind of prepared for that, right? When you prepare for an opportunity like that, for a lot of people coming into one area to spend a bunch of money, there's a lot of investing that goes on from a business standpoint. So I think it would take a lot for it to get moved. There you go. So if you guys and gals would hit that like button for us, we appreciate y'all hanging out with us this Sunday morning. We're going to get out of here. Just a 1-hour show today. And then we'll be back tonight for PTA Live at 7 p.m. Central. And we're going to begin to look at this Packers-Eagles matchup a little bit closer. All right, we're going to focus on exactly where their weak spots may be, where their strengths are. And I'll try to pull some other team statistics too to see like how good they were last year, although they've got a lot of coaching staff changes. We'll see where they were at points per play, points per game, yards per play, yards per game, all that good stuff, and kind of see both on offense and defense where they may be. So appreciate everybody in the chat. This was a lot of fun. For those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. We'll see y'all tonight at 7 p.m. Central Time. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. Go Pack, go.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.